Pravatio est. Enigma cordelitas est.
Hello my fellow seekers, today I want to share with you a re-upload of a Google Hangout I had with a YouTuber named Isethoriginal, who's on the Skeptic side of YouTube. I'll leave a link down to the original Hangout if you're interested. She made a response video to one of my videos I had on a new channel I was trying to start up called Evil Tip of Eden, but I decided to take that channel down and do commentary on this channel so I can share that with you guys and be more focused and specialize in the supernatural. So here's that discussion I had with her.
I see.
Iseth, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Who's
this is
that?
Evil Tip of Eden, or also
Siki.
known as Evil Seeker.
Siki! Hi, Siki!
How's it going? Thank you for sending me the link.
Yeah.
Hello.
So Siki is the guy I was replying to in my the previous last video. The one before Godless Engineer. The one with the UFOs.
My name is David, also known as Booleanator. I'm part of the Great Debate community.
Hi, David.
With, Steve McRae and others.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So, Siki, I totally wanted to talk to you. So explain us how this whole UFO thing works.
Well, with a lot of things, it comes down to experience. Like, there are so many claims out there, and you can't just always dismiss them as being fake or, people misidentifying, because there are some really strong claims. A good example of this is the case of the Fatima, Portugal, where they say they saw the apparition of Mary. And some say it was like a UFO phenomenon or something, but literally thousands of people saw that. And the problem is they didn't have really good cameras back then, but there are so many cases that it builds up a strong case to the point where the Vatican can't ignore it. So, and there are many other examples of this too, and I think other religions, of course, they're not as strong, but nowadays with the internet, we can actually try to verify these supernatural claims, whether it's UFOs, the poltergeist phenomenon, or apparitions. So I just think in the age of the internet, you can't quite ignore it because we do have video evidence of people's experience.
Let's assume for a moment, just for the sake of argument, that there are no fakes out there. Every UFO video that you see online is real. Just for a moment, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You see some light, like what was it? This 2011 one. What was it?
Oh, you mean the UFO over the Dome of the Rock incident?
Yeah, okay, that one.
Mm-hmm.
So the Dome of the Rock, you see the light coming down, flickering, and then popping back up. All you see is a light coming down, flickering, and going back up. How do you get from there to it is supernatural?
Well, whether it defies basic known laws of physics. So let's say if that thing really zoomed up, like Stefan Monio was saying, it's going so fast, it doesn't make logical sense that there would be something biological in it. So I was trying to get on his show, but I wasn't able to quite get on it. But he made a video about UFO phenomenon. He was debating with someone, and he said that there are things that people are claiming that don't fit, the laws of physics. So you just kind of have to categorize it as something. So we just simply say it's supernatural. It doesn't mean we can't study its effects. Just right now we don't know what it is, so we're just going to call it supernatural. I'm a Catholic, so the church understands that argument, and they're very careful to categorizing things. But when they say supernatural, what they're really saying is something is willing in action through an unseen cause, but we can see the effects of it. So example is the poltergeist phenomenon. In many cases, go ahead.
So basically you use supernatural as another word for unknown.
Well, something that's defying our known understandings of the current state of existence, yes.
But just because, for example, like even if we take this light now for a moment, the light comes down, flickers, and goes up again. It doesn't even have to be something in our way of sense, physical. Like it could be a reflection of something. It could be all kinds of things. It could be a weird lightning that just didn't pop up properly. That doesn't necessarily make it supernatural as such.
But
so you say, if that for you is supernatural, that would mean that it is a different word for unknown.
Yeah, pretty much you could say that. I'm not arguing against that. But until science can figure out what is the cause of it, sure. So when we say supernatural, it doesn't mean we can't study it. We can study its effects. A lot of paranormal investigators, even Vatican theologians would say that you can almost study the poltergeist phenomenon scientifically. We see similar patterns with every case. We can see how it moves a certain object, and they filter out, through hundreds of videos to get down to the best videos. And there are only a few YouTubers out there, like Mellow Bird and NQ Ghost Hunter. There are only a few YouTubers out there, really. But these cases you can't quite ignore because there's so much video evidence out there that you have to figure out if is it After Effects or something.
In one of the videos, I will deal with Mellow Bird in one of the videos because I have some nice stuff about him. But it's still what still gets to me is why do you have to call it supernatural if everything it is unknown? Because supernatural implies that it is not natural.
Okay, we can call it a ball of light. I mean, we can call it based on the characteristics that we see it. So whether it looks like in that video of the UFO Dome in the Rock, it was like waving or morphing. So we can use those characteristics. We can say it was moving very fast. We can also say there are 4 red orbs above it when it zoomed. My computer went down. Okay, there we go. So yeah, we can give it characteristics, and that's how a real investigator would, describe it. He's not supernatural; is just a general term. I mean, just to say we don't know what it is right now, but we do know it can morph, maybe fuse, it can expand or shrink. We see these characteristics in the video evidence.
Okay, so let me clarify based on what the definition actually says. So supernatural is a manifestation or event attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding or the laws of nature. A supernatural being, or the synonyms for it, is paranormal, psychic, magical, occult, mystical, superhuman, supernormal, or extra mundane. This is normally associated in religion to supernatural creatures or paranormal creatures like ghosts, phantoms, spectral, otherworldly, unearthly, or I guess in some sense, yes, unnatural to our perspective. To religion, supernatural is associated with a being, a creature with some form of will of high intelligence that is immaterial in their true nature, but material in their effects. Example of legends of this are fairy orbs or will-o'-the-wisp, kami or jinn, angels, demons. These are all associated with beings that are immaterial in their true nature, but have the ability to manifest by suspending the laws of nature or altering them somehow. So they are unnaturally or extraordinarily great based on the commonality. But at the same time, science may have the ability to try to understand this when we get into more quantum physics or interdimensional or extra-dimensional aspects of nature, which get very complicated, I'm sure.
Take away the supernatural, and what remains is the unnatural.
I'm a little confused. So,
Yeah.
So like if you're categorizing phenomena or things, objects, why not say it's non-natural instead of supernatural?
Well, it's natural because we objectively see it still. So it's still somehow in the real world. So it's visually seen. It has photons. So we know that it can produce light and it can move. Okay. So there is a natural aspect to it.
I guess I'm trying to better understand your definition of supernatural, because that was going to be the sort of follow-up thing I said is if it's in the natural world, then that means it's natural.
Well, I guess it refers to the rarity of an event. So so supernatural is just something that is not normal. So like the common sense, like in Japanese culture, they call the phrase kami, which is like spirit or God. And some legends say that they can see something moving.
If you say it is because it's super rare and it's not common, are albinos considered supernatural?
I'm sorry?
Something that is, when you say it is something very uncommon or very rare, that we do not consider it normal. Normal means it's part of a norm. So an albino, a person who doesn't have melanin in their skin, an albino, that is not norm. That is not normal. It is a human being, but it's not considered norm. So would you say that an albino is supernatural?
No, because they're still a biological person. So they're still natural in every other characteristic.
But if you just said that these happenings are natural as well, then why cannot an albino also be supernatural?
Supernatural normally refers to something that's defying the known laws of physics. And there's nothing, albinos aren't defying laws of physics. It's just some genetic, disorder. It's not really, it's still within the laws of nature. But right now, when we see an object moving at so fast, it seems to be defying something.
So
That's just
once
we
we
can prove otherwise.
Once we prove that it's not defying the laws of physics at that point, then it becomes a natural phenomenon and we don't attribute it to anything supernatural, i.e. a god or anything beyond the realm of the natural at that point.
In the perspective of God, you could say, yeah, the supernatural is just natural. But to the perspective of humans, of course, yeah, it's way beyond our comprehension so far. Understanding the cause of how it works. We can see the effects, but we don't understand the cause.
So in the Middle Ages, for example, the flu would have been supernatural.
In the perspective, of their knowledge, yeah. So, the term changes as we gain more knowledge, and I accept that. So, yeah, it's not supernatural to a supernatural being. So what I saw...
Or to us in the future, basically, because that's what it boils down to.
So why is the default
it's relative.
supernatural rather than unknown, say?
Well, you could say unknown. Yeah, it's unknown, but we still know what we saw in the video. So the best example I would say is that UFO over Dome of the Rock. We know it produced white light. We know it was wavy in its motion. We know there are 4 orbs of light above it that most people did not notice, and Fox News did not report on this. And we know 4 eyewitnesses saw it from different angles, so we know something about it based on the objective, visual aspect of it.
Sure, so but why not stop there and say that's what we know?
Yeah, that's what we know for now.
You can't say, for example, just like in general, you can't say, I don't know, therefore. It doesn't make sense to draw a conclusion when you're not completely uninformed. You know what I mean?
In my case, what I saw at my house, I performed an experiment. I can't prove to you guys. I tried to get on video, but the damn thing was too clever for me. So, but I'll try again, but my parents wouldn't like that. But what I saw... it reacted to me somehow. So I knew it was intelligent. It had some form of will. And it wasn't because I had powers, I could summon something, because this is not unique to me. There's other people claiming that they did the same phenomenon where they tried to summon a UFO with a flashlight at night. And they would do this maybe for, 2 months straight on a weekend on, let's say, Friday night when the moon's out. And I just did that over and over until eventually I got something. And it was large. It was red. I don't know why it was red because I see so many videos of other colors, so I know the phenomenon changes in color. It was making no noise, but prior it produced loud bangs. Which my neighbors thought our other neighbor was shooting a shotgun next to our house. We tried to verify that, and we couldn't figure out what the cause was. And then 2 weeks later, the damn thing decides to appear to my sister and kind of freak her out. So there's this experience that I had, and I could tell it had a behavior. It knew when to appear right after my phone dies. That sounds like an excuse, but it literally was, I put my phone away to recharge it. I come back out on my porch, and that's when this damn thing decides to appear. It had a strategic behavior. So to me, it had some kind of will. And it didn't make sense to me that this would be a spacecraft, because why would it react to me trying to summon it with a flashlight, trying over 2 weeks on a weekend. So it was just really strange in its behavior. So we have to judge it by its behavior and the characteristics. And a lot of MUFON investigators, they know that a lot of people appeal to UFO equals ET. But that's not what the Air Force intended at the time. They just assumed because there's something, a light in the sky, that it had to be some kind of object. But now they don't use the acronym anymore. They use UAP, Unexplained Aerial Phenomenon, which actually Hillary Clinton mentioned this once. So in that sense, they took the word object out of the acronym because maybe it's not appropriate based on what they might already know, specifically the NSA most likely. But a lot of speculation, of course, but this phenomenon is not, it's open. It's hiding openly on the internet among the thousands of fakes. And it knows it can do that, I think. There's some behavior to it.
Can I ask you what makes you think that you have a sort of a causal relationship with these events as opposed to, say, a highly correlated one?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what you're saying. Like
let's say, why I think there's a causal relationship, say, to attribute agency, for example. So you were talking about how it seemed to react to you.
Well,
why
I just think that because of the experiment that I did, and then looking at other cases and what their claims were, and then comparing that, and I'm just saying there's some kind of causal relationship to me trying to summon it and it appearing because maybe it's attracted to my curiosity and it just wants to screw around with me or something. I don't know for sure.
But you basically give it agency. You basically say this is the way it thinks, and that's not something you can necessarily know.
Right. That's where I was kind of going, is what makes you assign agency to it instead of,
what makes you think it thinks?
I'm just saying, based on my experience, that's how I perceived it, as it seemed to have some kind of behavior. Because,
I'm just wondering why you perceived it that way.
And some things are common sense. This is common sense.
I perceive it because I witnessed it, how it behaved. For example, it decides to be really low to the treetops, and it was not up in the sky, just a little dot in the sky. We could barely tell if it was a space station or something. So it came down to such a level that I knew that it must have been reacting to me, because there was no one else in the neighborhood that I know of that was trying to summon a UFO. So it seemed like it was specifically targeting me. And there are many cases where we see this phenomenon, these claims of people saying that I saw something come really close to me. And there are even Air Force officers who come out and explain that they saw this UFO in their life. And there's something psychological, I think, that the phenomenon is playing with us. And there seems to be a behavioral aspect. That's the best way I could say. And also based on what theologians have talked about this on Islamic and Catholic side, they say that this idea that you be able to summon something is like giving them your will, I guess your sense, in order to break into our dimension. And it's very consistent to the mythologies of every culture, whether it's Buddhism or Islam or Christianity, that this idea that you have to feed them this curiosity or energy. And that's where the origins of the word like sin actually kind of originates, from this idea of curiosity. So as a Catholic, I'm not supposed to be summoning stuff like that. That really is dangerous in the long run, they think, because you don't know what that thing could do to you. I mean, it really...
Siki, sorry if I interrupt you. I have a question. If something is faster than light, so something that is faster than what we can see, would you consider that supernatural?
No. It depends on the other characteristics. So like a meteor, a bull-like meteor shoots really fast within maybe 1 or 2 seconds, but it has other characteristics you can base off that. So like I studied something called the mystery boom phenomenon. So I'm trying to filter out reports of these mysterious booms that local news stations have been reporting on. And I try to use a criteria of filtration.
You're telling us all those things you do without really telling us exactly what you do, because it's very hard for us to figure out what you're doing. Like you say, yeah, I made this experiment and I made that experiment. But concretely what you did is not very precise, so we can't very much follow you. But I have a very, very different question. Because all those things you say, they make a lot of assumptions. And I don't think that those assumptions are necessarily justified.
Hypotheses, I guess you could say.
Yeah, but when you say, for example, this thing acts this way, this thing wants me to see him, or this thing, acts and deliberately acts this way, that is intent, okay?
Well, it's an educated guess.
But listen. That is intent. When I talk to someone and someone speaks harsh back to me, then I can say, this guy just hates me. But that is an intent that I attribute to a person. And this person could just as well, for example, be just, having a bad day and not really thinking about it. And you don't have a person there, but you actually have something that most of us would consider incident, basically. And you're putting intent onto them. And I would argue you don't really have the necessary ability to even get the knowledge to say that A, there is an intent, and B, that is the intent.
Yeah, just to clarify, that's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier with the causality versus correlation.
Otherwise.
Okay, guys, one after another.
Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. All I said was that's what you just said. He says is basically what I was trying to get at earlier with the sort of.
The problem, and I'm sorry, Chifty, many people who are into this philosophy stuff, when they explain things, they explain them based on what they know. Like you have a basic knowledge, you use certain terminology, you use certain way of thinking that is absolutely obvious to you, but the vast majority of people have never heard about. And so I have this stupid habit of dumbing everything down to the basic level, because I maybe understand what you're talking about, but I know that 5 hours ago I would not have been able to. Okay, so I just tend to dumb it down just out of habit nearly, because when I started YouTube and I was listening to atheist arguments, I had to Google every single word, and of those words I had to Google every single definition to even understand what the people were saying to me.
Right.
And so
it's a bad habit on my part too, because I don't know, like I can only guess where that sort of level is.
I'm sorry, but I will just go completely. And whenever, to everyone out there who's into philosophy, if you come and talk to me, I want you to talk to me like I'm a 4-year-old. I want to go basic language and basic everything, because otherwise I will drag you down to my level if I have to.
There's a word that applies here. That's the word is anthropomorphize. It means applying human characteristics to that which is not inherently human.
I think that's what people do with the UFO phenomenon.
And I think that's what you're doing. Is what I'm getting from this. So,
well, no, I mean anthropomorphic is referring to a physical look of something as a human.
Well, it's not necessarily physical look. You're applying it to its behavior. You're calling it an it, and you're saying it's behaving a way that you would attribute to a human as well. And that's anthropomorphic.
Okay.
Right. You're giving it a will. That's something that humans have. So that's also anthropomorphic. So
I think anthropomorphic is really referring to something, the physical look of a human. I think like we say Superman is anthropomorphic myth. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was just saying, don't be so specific as human, and just move broader to say you're reading agency into things. Is the way it sounds to me.
Yeah. Well, I have to judge it by somehow.
How do you know?
Okay, guys, just a second. Siki, would you be into having a hangout, you, me, and Shifty? Like just a hangout for us free?
Right now, you mean?
No, not right now. We set it up.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because I think Shifty, you mentioned that you probably have to go soon, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So we won't have much time. So let's just postpone this for another time. But sure. I don't want to just say, okay, let's stop it and let's kick everyone out. You know, let's do this another time and let's really go on this whole UFO thing, because it's fascinating to me. I can't help it. Okay. But
I can teach you guys how to summon one.
Okay.
You might regret it.
In the chat, and what would you like to say? Hi to everyone.
Well,
how do you know? How can you tell the difference between what is real and what is just your emotion, what you want it to be?
Well, my sister saw this, so another eyewitness helps.
Yeah, but she didn't see the intent of it either.
Well, she could judge its behavior.
Okay.
I mean, what's the conclusion? Like, you have to come to some conclusion based on how close that thing was to you, based on the environment around you. You know your neighborhood's a certain size. You know there are trees in the area covering your viewing points, or there's perspectives, and so you can come to some general conclusion until you can find other cases to kind of back that up, of course.
And some things are common sense. This is common sense.
So, I mean, me alone, yeah, I'm making some claim, but, you know, that has to be verified through hundreds of other cases that MUFON has to go through, or the Vatican, whatever institution.
I guess what I'm trying to say is you should stop with "I don't know."
Yeah, I don't know what its true cause is.
Here's a list of things that say "I observed," like the movement you're talking about and things like that. That's what you've observed, and even that might be inaccurate, but like that's what you should stop with. Not what does this suggest or what could this be, because
I guess
then you're sort of reading
Yeah, I guess
into it
that's
as a
more
human.
based on my overall research in ufology and other UFO phenomenons from the poltergeist. So yeah, in the broad sense, I feel like there's some kind of pattern to it. But in the basic sense, yeah, I can just tell you the objective observations I had with it. Like that's about it.
Okay.
Enigma depravatio